Houston, we have a problem.
I feel the need for speed. Ow!
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates.
Help me help you.
You are a toy!
My team is dead!
There's no crying in baseball!
Relax. This pot is making you aggressive.
Wilson!
You complete me.
What is up, WBAM fam? Welcome back to We Bought a Mic, a pop culture toy cast, FAO Schwartz cast, here with a review of Big, part of our series on the films of Tom Cruise and Tom Hanks. It's called A Tale of Two Toms, Tom v. Tom, Cruisemas with the Hanks. We're finally getting into Hanks. It's Hanks season, baby.
Oh, man.
You're finally getting to the Hanks part of Cruise with the Hanks.
After three cruises
And
to start this.
and I had a great time with the cruises. I really did. They're all really solid movies. I really enjoyed his performance in each and every one of them.
This is next level.
So refreshing.
Yeah. This is where I'm so excited to talk about this movie. Welcome to the show. I have become an adult. My name's Ernest.
I went to the carnival and I got big. My name is Hunter.
Go ahead.
It's a play on like went to the beach. And
Yeah, I
got
know.
old.
Yeah.
But I went to the carnival
Go
and
to
I
Carnival,
got
get
big.
Go to Zoltar, get big.
I got into Zoltar, I got big.
I'm Drew. And
Welcome back to the show. Bekah Stogner, how you doing?
Hey, I'll be the Gumby chair in Tom Hanks' loft apartment.
jealous.
Oof.
I mean, you know, there were some epic pizza nights on that Gumby chair. Like they were vibing. I'm surprised that apartment wasn't like more of a shithole. It was he kept it pretty clean.
Well, yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts about the logistics of this movie, which we will get into.
No, we
but
won't. We are not going to CinemaSins this lovely piece of art.
I do love this, like, was that like a $10,000 a month apartment in New York that he just like moves into immediately? I love when he just, don't you love a job when they're like, day 3, here's your paycheck?
Yeah.
It's the best.
And then the
we
vice.
love that.
This movie fucking owns. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear a word from you.
I'm not going to criticize this movie. I love Big. I love Big. Big's great.
You're a big head.
I'm a big
You're
guy.
a big
Listen,
head
I
guy.
was in a production of Big the Musical in my theater boy
Stop.
days. Yeah, you think that I'm joking. I tried to be young Billy himself.
We're getting into this right away.
Yeah, well, you guys are challenging my...
He's been
Wow.
brimming to say this. He's been shaking in his.
You guys
gotta bring up Big the Musical.
I could feel you just like, oh, Hunter's going to come out as negative because we've been only talking about Cruise and he's going to come over the top about
Anti-Hanks.
I'm not. I love this movie.
So you were
and I love
were you the
Tommy.
friend?
I auditioned
That
for being
first
the
of all,
Billy
that's
role.
mean.
Because that guy is
That's really mean to ask. To assume
that guy is awesome.
Here's the thing.
that kid rocks.
I did audition for the role of Billy. I did not get the role of Billy, unfortunately.
Were
but-
you
And
young?
it is a tender spot, and I
Were
don't
you-
appreciate you bringing that
Were
up this
you
early in
young
the podcast.
Josh or old Josh?
Who'd you get?
I was just a kid. I was just one of the friends. It's an expanded cast in the musical.
Oh man.
Don't worry. I wasn't expecting to get to this right now.
You're the one that brought it up.
I pulled up some of the songs I was listening to earlier today. Bekah, did you know that there was a Big musical, by the way?
I did. I was going to bring this up as well because I auditioned for a production of
Wow.
Beauty and the Beast in college with the song that the mom sings because I really wanted to be Mrs. Potts. And I thought that gave off the correct vibe.
That's so
That
cool.
rules. Okay.
I did not get that part either.
So we're just out here. We're struggling. We're trying our best.
Wait, what is the song that the mom sings? Is it I Am
It's
Horrified?
called Stop Time. I guess it's like watching this movie. I hadn't seen it in a really long time when I did that song. And like the context of the song, I think she's probably just like really missing her son that she thinks has been kidnapped.
It's a tragic tale. It's very sad.
Yeah, it's like a "Where Are You Christmas" type of.
Yeah,
vibe.
basically.
That's awesome.
It's the defying gravity
Okay,
of the musical soundtrack.
I thought it would be more of like a "Get the fuck away from me, you fucking weird old man."
No,
Please don't kill me.
I didn't have a chance to re-listen through all of the music of Big the Musical. It's not very good from what I heard. Shouts out to the UK recorded production of Big the Musical. It's on Spotify that I listened to beforehand. But I did find the song that I auditioned for the role of Billy by singing, and I just have to read an excerpt of the lyrics that are on here. The song is called It's Time. It is the big opening second act song of Big the Musical. And Billy's solo is... Time to hang with the gang out at the mall, but my best friend still didn't call.
Whoa.
All the plans we made are in the crapper. I'm so pissed, I'm talking like a rapper.
Whoa.
Chew on this. I'm pissed because you dissed me.
No.
It was time to come home, but you dismissed me. Look at me. Nothing's worse crap than a little white Polish boy from Jersey talking rap.
Wow.
What the?
And that was what I auditioned with on stage.
There was none of this strange
This energy.
Yeah, this element was not in the movie.
And everybody in the chorus is like, it's time.
So this won the Tony, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
The movie has no mention of his ethnicity.
you didn't look at Billy in this movie. You're like, God, that's definitely a Pole.
I mean,
that's definitely
listen,
a Jersey.
I
Pole.
did think that. However, they didn't say anything about it. They definitely. That's just.
They took some liberties with the musical. Is what I'm saying.
That's like a low effort adaptation.
We got to put a pin on this musical talk. I did not think that we were going to
I
get.
actually think we can just end it and move on entirely if you're cool with that.
I wanted to. If you have any other musical thoughts, Becca, feel free to chime in. But I wanted to throw it over to you.
I don't know anything about it beyond the one song that I sang a 16-bar cut from.
Okay, so that's enough.
We're fine.
I wanted you to kind of start us off here with well, first of all, if people don't know, you were previously on our Robin Williams wrap-up episode, which was not centered on a specific movie. We were kind of just celebrating the end of the series, along with your achievement of watching every single Robin Williams movie. But now we get to talk about an actual movie, a Tom Hanks movie, full review episode. So just tell us a little bit about why you chose this movie from the list, and some thoughts on Mr. Hanks. It's our first Hanks of the series. Big deal.
I know. I'm like excited to be here for the first Hanks. I like Tom Hanks fine. In recent years, I've not been a fan. But there's something really charming about old Tom Hanks, and I really don't like Tom Cruise. So that's mostly why I ended up here.
See,
but just like as an actor, you like love him as a person, right? And specifically like any like religious or spiritual beliefs, you like really empathize with the Tom Cruise persona.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's what.
And I'm not going to elaborate on that because I enjoy my life and I don't want to like lose it very quickly.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, we're gonna get we're gonna get Ms. Cabbage on us.
We all see Tom Cruise every year, once a year, when he gives us our Christmas present, which is a copy of Diegetics. He's our father, and we love him. He just shakes our hand firmly and says, "Keep trying, kid."
I originally campaigned when we were like deciding who to do after Cage. I campaigned really hard against Cruise, more than I campaigned for anyone. I didn't find him varied enough. I still think that he lacks an amount of range. However, the first three movies of Cruise, I've enjoyed watching. Like I've enjoyed seeing like
they're great movies.
Yeah, the evolution of him. It's but this is a perfect movie to be introduced to Hanks, just the same way that those three are great to be introduced to Cruise, because like those are all extremely intense, focused, like energetic roles that you could only really imagine him playing. I couldn't put another motherfucker in this role. I mean, he's so cute.
Did you by any chance see the list of all the people that they tried to put in this role?
Oh, could you tell me?
Because it is fucking insane.
I know about the big one that they did cast in there. Or like
initially it was supposed to be a Steven Spielberg Harrison Ford combo.
What?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Apparently so.
He's too old.
Travolta wanted to do it, and they did not want John Travolta. Like the studio did not want Travolta to do it.
That's lame because I think he can be fun, and I think maybe he could be fun.
I could have seen Travolta in this. Harrison Ford, like
too old.
Well, also like he has too
That would have been
much
such a
swag.
different movie.
Like Harrison Ford is like
He doesn't have too much. He's surly. Like
Well,
even in the 70s, he was playing like a gruff guy,
Yeah.
like a guy who was like,
so
he'd
he
be
would have
like,
been
"Ah."
aged up to like another 10 years older than what Hanks is playing in this movie at like 30. He's playing 40, but also I don't know. There's something that's too sexy about Harrison Ford, where Tom Hanks isn't sexy in this movie, but like
but he is cute.
he's got that cutie pie-ness to him.
He's a sweetheart. He plays, and I mean, and this continues especially through his magic run of like the late 80s, all 90s. He plays roles with an emotional honesty and like a vulnerability that really, really fucking suits this part, because a lot of actors trying to play a kid overdo it. That's an extremely common thread across this like little subgenre of movie.
Yeah.
Some
How do you think Gary Busey would have done it?
Was it him? Was he?
Well, there's a big list. I'm looking at the list
running.
now. This is a
Andy
crazy
Garcia
list.
was also in the running, but there was like a race disagreement. Like the studio didn't want to cast him.
Oh well, then I was
for
gonna.
that.
Andy Garcia, is he like fun? It has to be someone fun. And
Andy Garcia, I don't hate. I like that more than Gary Busey.
Yeah, all of these people.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
The big one that I saw was De Niro.
Yeah, De Niro was
De Niro,
cast.
I think, landed the role
Yeah.
with Elizabeth Perkins and dropped out. So then it went to Tom Hanks after the fact.
Yeah, because
What
it was a
hell?
money thing. Because he wanted $6 million, and they're like, we won't give you more than $2 million, and then Tom Hanks agreed to do it for $2 million.
And we sort of got into in our intro episode how Tom Hanks's career was extremely winding and like non-standard for someone who becomes that successful. He had no pedigree as an actor.
But at this, I mean, this is everything up until this point you could say is kind of non-standard, but I think this really just is fucking rocket
This is
ship.
the one, but
He gets an Oscar nomination off of this movie.
That's why I was so impressed watching it, is because this is a guy who like he never acted really seriously until like college and like post-college. He's just doing like regional theater bullshit. And then he lands a few movie roles, yada yada. He's fully ready to go in this movie.
It's
he's
an amazing.
He is
performance.
1,000% perfect in this movie. It's one of my favorite performances I've seen in years. I wish I had seen this movie earlier, but holy smokes.
Yeah.
He really,
I feel like the biggest, if not like the only reason that this movie works is because of just like his charm and everything that he brings to the role.
yeah, because it shouldn't work in several ways.
It's absolutely horrifying.
Yeah,
When you
it is kind
really
of a
think about it.
terrifying scenario.
It is, and it's generally absurd, but like he has to play an extremely fine line because the script puts him in a really tough spot where he has to be, obviously things are heightened and it's an absurd world and it's like silly. So like there's an amount of, excusability in terms of people buying that he's an adult, or, people buying him as like a professional or buying him as a romantic interest, especially. Yeah. And you buy an amount of all that. Obviously, it's pretty absurd that Elizabeth Perkins is so interested in him.
Yeah.
But
one night with him in his toy-filled loft, and she's a completely different person.
And
He's like, he's an adult. And you're like, what is that your takeaway that you're having here?
In the bunk bed, he's like, wow, he didn't even try to sleep with me.
I guess I love him.
Bro, this guy's different.
Yeah, she's
Something
only
loose in her brain on the train.
I have a lot of thoughts. Like, what does Susan do? What is her job there at the toy factory?
It's a toy. I mean,
what does she do? Because
what is anyone's job?
Even Paul makes a comment about just like, you were hooking up with this guy, and then you hook up with this guy, and now you were hooking up with me. Now you get with him. Does she?
It's just an office. It's just like
so
stock
she just is
office.
like, I will go wherever whoever has the best ideas. I will just try to like get with them. Is that like what they thought about like women in an office space role in the 80s?
Yeah,
in these movies. Like,
I mean, honestly, that is how movies were written, especially by dudes. Is like, she's just like desperately horny.
Should we have the Millie Bobby Brown conversation now about how
they look identical?
How they look identical. It was like kind of driving me. It was at one point it was almost distracting to me while watching this movie. That was like, she looks exactly like Millie Bobby.
Did you notice that at all, Bekah? The fact
Elizabeth Perkins?
Yeah.
Yes.
Once Ernie said it, I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Because
I guess I could see it. my partner and I attempted to watch Weeds, and after the first season, I was like, I cannot do this. But that was all I was mostly thinking about when I saw her was bitch mom from Weeds.
She was just in
Weeds. I forgot about. I've watched like the first 2 seasons of Weeds back in like high school, and then I kind of forgot.
She was just in the After Party season 2 on Apple TV Plus, and she's very good in that. Okay, so this movie, Big. I think this is my favorite movie of this series so far. I loved this movie. I had such a great time watching this movie. I definitely remember watching it as a kid. The piano sequence is just burned into my brain, like going into it. Very much like Rain Man gambling in Las Vegas. I went into this movie thinking just about that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is the scene of the movie. And incredible scene, fucking holds up so well.
Really
like,
phenomenal.
Unbelievable.
Like it just lights out, like kind of banger moment in the movie. But the rest of the movie felt very fresh to me. I mean, there were moments here and there that I recognize, especially the ending, the entire like final scene of him kind of turning back into a kid. I clearly remember that. That's very much in my head.
He is going to need so much therapy to unpack.
Unbelievable.
She's so fucked. Yeah, she's like done for life.
She's gonna like drive into
boyfriend turn into a little boy.
I know. And she genuinely did a noble job of sort of processing it like before that point. But watching that, like
that's gonna fuck you up,
it's
man.
so,
it's
the amount of therapy is insane.
Yeah.
She's so cooked. Poor Elizabeth.
But yeah, I love the vibes of this movie. I think so far the Tom movies have had kind of a skewed encapsulation of what the 80s must have been like very, I don't know. Top Gun is just very like polished and glossy, and then Color of Money and Rain Man just feel like very kind of inside of their own realities of each respective story and not necessarily encapsulating like a time period. I feel like this movie encapsulates this time period in so many ways. Like really loved the look and feel of it, the costume design.
I know it has a really well balanced color palette. Like every color pops the way that, I mean, Penny Marshall shot the fuck out of the movie.
It's
like
unbelievable.
She directed the shit out of this, because also the one thing that has to work really well is the fact that we are being sprung into this new reality of him being big really quickly in the movie. Like we breeze past so much really intensely
we get to it
plot, and there's a good chance that the audience could be left behind when that happens in a screenplay. And she directs it so breezily, almost montage style, but it's sort of held together just enough. It all just works.
Well, do you know who the cinematographer is for this movie?
Tell me.
Our boy, Barry Sonnenfeld.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the guy who made Addams Family and the Men in Black movies, and of course, Wild Wild West.
He directed RV, didn't he?
He directed RV.
Yes!
Yeah.
He's the guy on the side of the RV.
Let's go.
Him. So Barry Sonnenfeld, actually, he is also worked with Penny Marshall and like shot the shit out of this movie.
I know.
The look of this movie is
phenomenal.
It's so good.
The vibes are very well calibrated. It's a hard tone.
I will say,
get.
I don't know if this is my favorite of the movies that we've talked about before, but I do think that Tom Hanks might have the best performance of any of the movies so far.
Cooking.
It's almost at a point where the movie, like, I almost was thinking this while I was watching the movie about if he should have become like lost some of the boyishness, because in some of the scenes, they're like conflicting scenes earlier. They're like, more adult, you've changed.
Yeah.
You're not the same anymore. It's like, he still kind of seems like the same goober dude. Like he like still has that level of boyishness, which in doing research of this, apparently, I don't know how true this is. This is just a IMDb trivia fact that Penny Marshall shot every scene with the boy playing Josh, and then had Tom Hanks watch how the boy acted and then try to mimic him in those scenes, which is phenomenal. That's such like a genius idea to be like, I want to capture that boyishness in here.
Well, but it's just he is approaching he's approaching it in the right way. He's not approaching it in a what would be funny way. He's approaching it in a what would this character actually do way.
Yeah.
And because there's an amount of trust there that the script is funny enough, which it is, that it's gonna be funny if he approaches, his reactions in a real way. Because the premise is, has an amount of just built-in absurdity and irony. The other Rama connection, by the way, we got to say, Penny did direct Awakenings.
So we don't want to talk about that.
Oh no.
Yeah.
What the hell? How does she do?
She with
These
such
are
a
the-
vibrant,
these
and
are the most
beautiful
different-
color palette to just like the most muted and gray nothing movie.
Well,
I've ever seen.
let's
She got De Niro though. She finally got it.
There you
let's
go.
table Penny for a second. Let's stay on Tom for a second. Becca, thoughts on Tom Hanks's performance in this movie and just the movie as a whole? I think it's one of those movies that kind of hinges on the lead performance, right?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. I hadn't seen this movie in a hot minute before I watched it for this, and there were so many moments that were like still so strong in my brain. Obviously, like the piano scene, the scene where he eats the caviar, burned it into my brain. Like that is such a
Eating
that's such a
beluga.
memorable moment.
Yeah, he's like
gagging.
Yeah, he's like shoving a napkin in his mouth, and she's like, "Do you want to go have sex?"
If only it were that easy.
She is so horny in this movie.
I kind of can't believe
It's unbelievable.
It's like, Susan, I need you to fucking keep it in your pants, okay? I need you to calm
She's
it down here
never
a bit.
met a man that
She's never
is
met a
so
child
in tune
before.
with his inner child.
The most quirked up man. It's just, I don't know. It's phenomenal what he done in this movie.
I think-
I agree with you, Ernest, that it's the best we've seen so far, and I love Cruise and Rain Man so much.
But I will say that, like, I think that even outside of, like, because, of course, like, when you watch Big and you talk about kind of the boyishness and what Hanks is doing in the role, it's easy to see, like, kind of the fun and the whimsical scenes, the FAO short scene and stuff like that. But really, I had to write it down because I think it's the moment that kind of unlocks Tom Hanks as an actor is in the oneer that takes place in the shitty little motel that he goes in.
Yes.
Where he goes in there and it has that feeling
That's
of
the
whenever
Oscar nomination.
you are a boy and you're like trapped like alone in this foreign place and you don't know what to do.
And
like
he
you
just
were
starts
so
crying.
Yeah,
scared.
that
And
seems incredible.
he like starts with them just like locking the door and then running over, deadlocking, going back, pushing the dresser in front, and then just kind of like curling up under a pillow and sobbing himself to sleep. It's so good. It's so good.
He kills it.
And then like 2 weeks later, he's kicking his feet on the bed, eating Oreos.
Well, you know,
It's such a movie.
what is the timeline of
honestly,
this story?
teenage boys kind of suck. There's apparently it all takes place in 6
6 weeks? That's what I
Yeah,
thought. Yeah.
which is
What?
which is awesome. I mean that's why we have to just like rocket through that first
Yeah.
act. Like we're jetting through, and it should be really jarring, and that's why I think this movie is like truly has like movie magic in it, because you should be bumping on a lot of shit in that first act. Like you should be the kid, obviously, he goes to carnival, wishes big, become big. He is immediately, he's not like okay with it, but he immediately completely understands with and accepts that reality. Like he does not have, he has maybe a half second of like, what? And then he's like, oh yeah, it's because of last night that I wish I was big. Yeah. He's 13. Like that's not how shit go. You know what I mean? Like you would be like losing your shit. Like what in the fuck is going on right now?
Right.
But he's like, oh yeah. And he immediately just jumps into action. Like he doesn't like hide in his room for a day. He goes downstairs, he sneaks off. He tries to talk to his mom and then immediately goes to town with he finds his friend, which is a fun little sequence with the gym class. I love this little kid.
Yeah, he does a great job.
Billy?
Oh my goodness.
Billy's the best.
I think he's phenomenal. I think he's given a lot of great lines, but he's delivering.
Did anyone clock like the minute where we get Tom Hanks on screen? Because it's got to be like pretty early on.
Yeah, you would think it would be later, because a lot of movies would make the mistake of like, giving the kid a ton of time.
I mean, it's really like it's like the third scene is whenever they're at the carnival.
I'm gonna pull it up on good old
Yeah,
D plus.
I'm gonna wager that it's not more than like 17 minutes.
Yeah, because it's him getting ready in the morning. It's him meeting up with Billy outside, and Billy like talking bras, and then like going home.
It's a great intro.
It's like bras in this.
It's so funny. It's so like teenage boy
13-year-old. Yeah.
It's
when he
really
just
funny.
stares at her butt when she's leaning over the desk, I was like, oh God, what are we doing here? What's going on?
But
I
then,
almost wonder if they like had sex and she went to take it off and he was like, no, don't.
You got it.
I don't want to see.
11 minutes. 11 minutes and 30 seconds
Wow.
is the
So-
intro.
So yeah, that's fucking
Thanks.
insane. Like that's so fast.
yeah.
But I mean, they're right to do that. And it,
Right.
you know, that comes down to writing, directing, and editing. But it's like, we just need to know this kid long enough to get a vibe of him, know who his immediate family and friends are, and know what he wants
Right.
to be big.
And it's, I think there's a certain, the premise, the fantasy premise movie of a certain era is something that doesn't exist anymore. I talked about this during our intro to the series when I watched Splash. Splash is guy falls in love with mermaid. Like that's the fantasy premise. It doesn't get overly complicated than that. Big, I think, is a insanely better movie than Splash, but it's a similar scenario where it's just like magic coin machine, make boy adult. And we don't have to know anything other than that. We're just content with that.
Yeah, well,
that level of explanation. Because now in the 21st century, you would get an entire backstory of what that machine, you would get a Disney Plus original series
you're having like
about everything leading up to the machine being in that carnival.
a 90-minute YouTube explainer of the laws of this universe and what he carried over from his
And all the
former life
Easter eggs and everything, and like FAO Schwartz like prequel series and the
Are you
meaning.
saying you wouldn't watch like at least one episode of a Zoltar Speaks
Oh, I would.
prequel?
I absolutely. I'm just people not learning to be specific with their manifestations and just having like
Yeah.
the worst things. The monkey paw
'Cause it could be
curling
either, like,
constantly.
It'd be so funny if it was an anthology show because you could have one episode that's just like very whoa and like zany, and then one that's like very dark and like dramatic.
I want one with like an 80-year-old man who's just like, I wish I was small. And he just becomes like a little boy who's just like doing the New York Times crossword at like second grade.
He's
He, like-
Benjamin Button.
Yeah.
It just becomes Benjamin Button.
That's what I'm looking for.
I would
Have
watch.
it go the other way.
I would watch the spinoff about the skyscraper robot.
I have so many thoughts about skyscraper transformers.
I want to watch. Yeah,
My boy Paul.
I want to
just
watch
out
a
here
show.
taking L's.
Yeah, I want to watch a show about John Hurd's next job. Really interesting stuff there.
Does he get canned? I think he probably like
He sucks.
he sticks around.
He
Well,
fucking stinks.
We have no
I don't know,
idea. The
'cause
movie ends before you know anything. We don't even know if like Choose Your Own Adventure comics actually become a thing
tough
or not.
beat.
Yeah,
Um,
honestly, Tom Gad just like lets Susan like go fail. Like he's just totally setting her up to bomb.
Yeah, but
there.
guess
And
Yeah,
what?
then
there's
Now-
no way she came back into the meeting room after that.
Yeah,
No.
but
It's done.
she's the only one who knows anything about this idea that
Right.
because bro is a child now.
Right.
So generally,
she did say call me in 10 years though.
you're
So
right. Even the fact that this happens in the 80s and there's an amount of sort of suspension of disbelief that we just accept this reality. I think even then they're like the pacing of this movie just deserves so much credit because
Yeah.
there are movies from back then that make the same mistake where like if I were writing this movie, there's no way I would yada yada all that stuff. Because there's a lot of juicy stuff you could put in there. It could be like a half hour, 45 minutes of him still in his hometown.
yeah,
How
you could have a whole carnival sequence with all the
it's
friends.
so you
and,
have to
like,
be
yeah.
so ballsy to have him like being successful at a job in like the second act. Like that's fucking crazy.
He's already got very
I know.
important papers.
Well, still, and that's why I want to give a lot of credit to the script, which was originally written by Gary Ross, who had a very strange and interesting writing career, and also Anne Spielberg got writing credit on it. It's so interesting to me, and I think a lot of it, the reason that stuff is passable is because there's so much honesty in just the way that these kids are acting from moment to moment. The way that Hanks is in particular, but like when they're a really, really great example of like sort of, I guess like in the moment emotional intelligence or just like these characters acting how they actually would is when they're at the bank and they're cashing the check and like
they step away.
yeah, and when they step away, it's like $187. The way that they decide to get the money isn't cartoonishly funny. It's literally what two kids would do.
Yeah.
They would say 3 dimes, $100 bill, because they just want to have $100 bill.
At 87
and
ones.
87 ones because everything they've ever bought has been with ones.
Yeah.
They can't imagine
The
buying-
way he screams $187 when he gets that
Yeah.
check too. It's pure gold.
He's really good at like pushing that boundary of like what would be acceptable in a social situation. You know, no one is really that freaked out about the way he's behaving. They might be like a little bit weirded out, but it's not like ever so jarring that it breaks the reality, but you're clearly seeing a child.
Yeah, it has like it has like almost a Pee-wee feel to it. You know, like in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, where just like the people he comes across are more grounded than him, but they're still heightened because they have to accept him.
Yeah.
As real. And
what
so
was the comp you made last night with the Pee-wee? This is really good.
when he's on the trampoline and he's like he's laying down and he's like, come on, jump. That's if Patrick Bateman was Pee-wee Herman.
Christian Bale is Pee-wee.
But yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just strikes a really special balance to me in general. This movie.
I feel like to your point on the honesty, like the way that characters react to him too is very real. Like that scene with the mom when she first sees this man in her house that's claiming to be her son. Like she never has that moment where she pauses and is like, "It is you, my boy." Like the whole time she's just like, "Get the fuck out of my house."
We're so scared.
And the scene with Susan towards the end too, where he like tries to tell her and she obviously takes it as something completely different, because why would she be like, "Oh yeah, I completely understand what you're trying to say."
Yeah.
And of course the only person who does believe him is his friend, is another child, because he's like, if I do a dance that's our little dance, then you'll know that it's me, because nobody else could.
And
know
that's
our
how Billy
dance.
gets kidnapped.
the entire like horror movie that's playing out parallel to this movie of a child that's been abducted and his mother that's like given up hope of ever finding him as the weeks turn into months.
Yeah.
That just blew my mind, because you know, you could easily, with just a couple tweaks, this movie would just be a horror movie. That's something that's I think so kind of special about comedies a lot of times, is if you have a crazy scenario, it could also just be a horror movie scenario.
That's the whole reason why comedy writers go on to make great horror movies and horror
Jordan
movies.
Peele. I did bump a little bit on like, all right, where's dad? Like we see dad for one scene at the carnival and then he just disappears. Where you start to wonder, like, is there even a dad? And this mom is just dealing with this situation on her own. And
was there some shit cut out there? Also, Billy's parents just absolutely stink. He is running wild.
He is. Billy seems like a little shit. Okay, he's like first, like day one, he's like, I'm stole $300 from my dad's sock drawer. Like he's just day one. Billy's like definitely like stolen cigarettes.
I mean, you know what they say about Polish kids? No, I'm joking. I don't know what they say about Polish
what
kids.
did they say about Polish kids?
It takes a lot of them to screw in a light bulb. I don't know.
No, I will say, going back a little bit, talking about like how the brevity in this movie and its exceptional pacing, even in the little moments, it still finds a way to just be like so incredible and beautiful. And what comes to mind specifically is the carnival scene. The carnival scene is what, like 2 minutes or something like that, but that carnival scene was burned into my brain. Not even just like the Zoltar of it, but trying to go up to the girl and like get up on there. Listen, I as a short king, just like our boy young Josh over there, as someone who had to stuff construction paper in my tennis shoes to ride rides in order to add that extra half an inch, my short people out there know what I'm talking about. I feel for his pain,
dude.
But that scene was like burned into my mind. And then you just see somebody else who like had a growth spurt before you, and you're like,
you're like, oh, I'm fucked. Like, I'm cute. I'm not hot.
The fact that her only criteria to be dating that man is that he drives.
Yep.
So also, okay, this fucking guy is, so he's what, 16, like prowling the middle school for girls.
Yeah,
that
they
hit puberty
exist.
Early.
I mean, you know,
I believe you.
Yeah, that's that. You know, But I agree though. Like I was like always extremely short, especially. And if you had asked me at age 12 or 13, especially like for one wish, I would have been like, I just want to be tall enough to date girls.
To ride the roller
Well,
coaster.
that's what he
with my
should have
date.
said.
I know.
See, this is why, guys, fellas, let this be a lesson out there to you.
You a
Be
short
specific. Be specific with your manifestations.
I thought you said be happy with being a short king.
We'll also be happy with being a short king. Yes.
Yeah, don't ride that ride. It's not good enough for you.
I don't know. That ride looked pretty fun.
It did.
They ride it at the end.
Those circle rides make me so sick.
Yeah.
Mm.
I hard
And I can
pass
hang on a
those.
roller coaster, but those make me so sick.
Carnival
So
roller coasters are a
he's
different
fun.
breed. You know,
Well, which one were they trying to go on?
It's the one where you just go in a circle.
Oh, because they ride the roller coaster. Once he's Tom Hanks and he goes with Elizabeth Perkins to the carnival, they go on the roller coaster. That's a good moment.
I do have a take about anything that can be built and taken down within a day.
Don't
I'm
trust.
Good. I'm good on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like that's just I'll pass.
Hey, man, the thrill
It's
of going.
the final destination of it all for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is there a final destination in a carnival? I've never seen any
The
of those.
third one begins with a roller coaster.
Yeah, the
accident at
roller
Carnival.
coaster.
Okay.
They might as
great
well
roller
all
coaster
be,
scene.
really.
That'll be a good one to put on at a party soon. Just vibing.
That's why I never drive behind a truck with logs on it either.
Yes.
Mhm.
I haven't seen those movies, but I know that you're not supposed to do that because of those movies. That's just something in the air that I know.
Don't use a tanning bed. Don't take a shower. Don't lift
Don't
weights at
take
the
a shower.
gym.
So Hanks gets a job pretty quickly at this toy company.
Can we talk about my boy
Robert
Logia?
Logia,
Logia.
The boss
He is
man.
in love with Josh.
he genuinely,
like
yeah,
the way he'd be looking at him during those meetings.
Yeah.
He's a little saucy.
he really is. He's
And listen,
so
everybody's trying to
affectionate.
fuck Tom in this movie.
Mhm.
Everybody just wants
Well,
some of
everyone's
Joshy.
amazed at how boyish he
Yeah.
is. He's just had so much energy. He's like a child.
R.I.P. to Robert Loggia. I saw him, and I haven't seen this movie in many years. I used to watch this movie all the time growing up, but I had not seen this movie
On
since
VHS?
watching David Lynch's Lost Highway.
Mm.
And so I was just like, oh my God, that's Dick Laurent. Like a very, very different character that he is playing in this movie. He absolutely rules.
He's so
Him-
lovable.
In the FAO Schwartz scene is just like the way that he is. It's like him talking to his nephew or something like that, walking around the store with him, but he's treating him with the same like respect that you would just another partner.
Yeah, because
executive.
he's still sort of online. He's like, I definitely like this guy. There's something different about him. However, I still think he's weird.
He's
Yeah.
the guy who got into the toy business for the right reasons.
Facts. And
It's
then,
like very they came together.
oh, I said that when we were watching it. It's Candy Systems and Research.
I love the through line of Josh making every character rediscover their inner child.
Uh
Like that is
Yeah.
such a cool aspect of this story that
huh.
I feel like the tone of it landed really well with me. When I go on Letterboxd and I look up this movie, there's a lot of like 3.5-star reviews that are like taking down the problematic aspects of the movie, the, you know, pedophilic tendencies of some of the characters. But I didn't really like bump on that watching the movie because there is such a heart to it. There's like this nice beating emotional core to this movie.
Yeah, there's a difference between like really being bothered by something and acknowledging, oh, they definitely wouldn't fuck if they made this today. You know, because that's what I was thinking. It's just like, oh, you would have to approach this differently today.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it also,
But it would be more serious.
Well,
This
no-
movie's not very serious.
yeah, and it also just you know, it just, I don't know. It has a strange
They
way.
also never like he's never like, wow, that was some banger sex last night.
Right.
They never come out and say it. It's just heavily implied, which I feel like also maybe gives it a pass.
You're right. And
I don't know.
No,
That's a crazy scene. That is, I was like screaming watching that scene. And I don't know. I think that they knew what they were doing back then. It's not like this shit was just acceptable back then. They knew that they were playing around in some questionable areas. And I think that Penny does a really good job of kind of
I know.
towing that line.
Well, and also it's not like it's fully, it's not, I guess it is like in an objective way, it's fully excusable because he's just an adult man externally.
He's Tom
like,
Hanks. Yeah.
There's no way on earth for her to be like, were you turned into an adult with a Zoltar machine? Hold on. I need to ask.
Is this a big scenario right now?
Yeah. Before we fuck.
Did you get bigged?
I asked that before every date, just to be safe.
You got it. I mean, these days,
I will say,
Joe Biden's America.
I was saying last night that that's how I actually dump all my girlfriends.
Yeah, you tell them you're
I try to convince them that
I'm 7.
That I'm a little boy.
There has to be at least one guy who tried to use the big excuse. He's like, I actually am a little boy.
I'm a little baby.
No, I will say, so I need you guys to weigh on this, but I think that Susan is more in the right after definitely having sex with Josh in this movie than Fran Drescher is for trying to have sex with Jack in the film Jack.
Correct. Because everyone knows what's up with Jack.
Yeah.
Everyone knows his deal.
Exactly. And she can be like, oh, I didn't know he was one of the boys, but she knew. She fucking
And then
knew.
in Big, she's
that
just like
pairing, like in
Also-
general, just Robin Williams and Fran Drescher is a lot more horrifying
Cursed.
than this one.
Yeah, the fucking odors that are coming out of that is just,
Ew,
I'm not vibing
I
with
want to
that.
be in there.
She was his mistress
I
in
wanna
another
huff
movie
it.
too. She was his mistress in the movie Cadillac Man.
what the fuck?
And
Man,
her boobs are out. It was
Fran.
very unpleasant.
mini Fran series up in here.
Bless you for watching
Yeah.
Cadillac Man.
We'll
in
watch-
addition to Jack.
Do you recommend that
It was
one?
awful. No,
I mean,
please do not watch it.
Jack had to come up at some point because between Jack and Hook, Robin kind of had the market cornered a little bit in
On
like
playing boy.
yeah.
But him playing boy is, I mean,
The inner child.
love Robin, but his version of an inner child is so drastically different from this. Even Jumanji is a little bit of that because he is a boy
Yeah.
that's just trapped in an old man body
You're right,
because he
you're
got
right.
old. So like it's kind of doing that, but Tom Hanks, what he is doing of playing the boyishness is just on another plane in existence because
Yeah,
like you mentioned earlier,
you
it's
never
not-
cringe at it.
yeah, well, it's not
But if
doing
you
the
do
zaniness.
if you do cringe, because there are some moments where I kind of cringe, but it was not because of his
No,
performance.
it's on purpose.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's because you're supposed to be cringing.
but like even
Yeah,
it's not, it's another thing that isn't necessarily like a bigger, flashier, zany, but it's whenever Susan asks him like, what do you think of me? Like, what are we doing here? And the way that Tom plays it is he gets like so bashful and like puts his like hand on his face. Like he's like, what do I think of
That
you?
is an incredible
I know.
moment.
That's so good.
me and
man.
Ernest
like, that
both
is
in that-
unbelievable.
That take of the way his face contorts, we both literally like had our mouths like agape. We were like, he's so
That is
good.
that is a movie star moment. What did you think of that scene, Becca? Because that's one of my favorites.
it makes me tee a little bit.
Yeah, it does. It's so cute.
the way
So bashful.
he just immediately like it is the way that a kid would react, but also it's effective for an adult in such a manner that he does flip. Like she is no longer upset with him after that, and then he starts like
doesn't
throwing
even give
shit
her a
at her.
straight answer. He just like does a cute little face
He's
and
like,
takes her to
"Come
the
on."
ground.
How can you not?
It's so good.
God.
Well, and that generally speaks toward one of the funnest parts of the movie, which is again a great screenwriting choice. Is like, let's make this kid like pretty effective. Like he immediately kind of accepts that he's an adult and he sort of gets to work on figuring out what to do about it. And like he's really good at his job. He's not anxious in a way that a child might be about like saying his opinion to adults. And there are children like that. It's just like that's a smart way to make things move really quick in this fucking movie. It's like he's not abashed in ways that kids can be.
Or in the way that adults can be. Adults afraid to speak their mind because they're in a big executive board meeting.
Or they're
whatever.
they're so obsessed with focus groups and numbers, like John Hurd.
What is a marketing
and
report?
racquetball.
Fuck Paul, bro.
I always ask myself, what is a marketing report? Exactly.
The choice for Paul to make a skyscraper as a toy is so
It's
fucking
so
funny.
cool.
It's so like businessman. and then Hanks is like, what if it was like a bug?
Bug.
Hey,
And
everyone's
everyone's
like,
like,
bug,
"Whoa,
write that down, write that down.
God, this guy's a fucking genius.
That is so fucking funny. Like, what a great scene.
Everyone barking on their hands and knees in the boardroom because he just essentially reminded them what little boys like.
Yeah, they're like, a bug?
They're like, you know what? We're going to
It
give
can
you the
move
exec
around.
suite, and your job is toys. You just play with toys all day long.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
so cool.
That's why it's funny, like, the third act, like, conflict, I guess, if you want to say that, of like Billy coming back and being like, hey, we can turn you into a kid again. And he's like, no, I have important meetings and I'm a businessman now. That's the only part that like kind of feels out of nowhere, because it's like, well, he's still the same boy. Like, I'm seeing scene to scene. Like, he is not, it's not like he like stopped playing with toys and is now just like making financial reports and setting up business meetings.
It's just more than
It's the same
anything, it
thing.
just like it made me upset that he's like already better at being an adult than I am. Like really quickly. He's
So quickly.
yeah, like, he's just
Well, if he had been really good at being an adult, he would have, like, before he turned back into a kid, sold all of his shit and then, like, set his money aside for himself.
Oh
when
my
grows
God. He
up.
just left that apartment.
He left that
Untouched.
sweet, sweet apartment. He probably left that white Elvis suit somewhere.
that apartment did
Listen,
not vet him properly.
That looked like the same apartment that Kendall buys cousin Greg in
Listen,
Succession.
in the 80s, you just like, there was no such thing as a background check in the late 80s in New York. It was
80s,
just
yeah,
like,
80s New York.
Yeah,
you can pay
clearly.
cash.
it was like, fine,
His
just,
social security number is illegitimate, probably.
and they're like, we just get that number and make sure you got
Well,
one.
This
Like,
is a story about
it's like whenever like you apply for a job and they say they drug test, but they don't actually
It's a
drug test.
formality.
It's just to
Yeah,
say
they
that
have
that's
to.
to
Yeah,
weed people out.
I mean, this movie is about white privilege.
Facts.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I kept saying, like, especially during those scenes, I kept saying, watch Whiteness work.
Yeah.
Because it's just, it's a lot. It
Here
reminds,
you go. Here's a job. Here's a
well,
house.
and it reminds me a lot of Being There.
Yeah.
Parentheses
Is that-
1974.
Who is it? Did you say Emilio Estevez was the one who
Andy
was-
Garcia.
No, Andy Garcia was.
You know,
Either way.
Yeah.
there is a lot of Chauncey
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, there's
in this
there's
movie.
a ton of it because
Yeah.
he just looks at people with a blank face and they just project whatever they want onto him. And
Right.
he's the thing is Chauncey is
falling up like
Yeah, that's
and
the-
well, and Chauncey is also like stupider than this kid is, like waste, you know what I mean? Like he's incapable of stringing together like coherent thoughts, and like this kid is actually really smart for a kid.
I think what the difference is a little bit is in Being There, the genius of that movie is it's actually that Chauncey is just the ultimate blank slate and people just want to project all
Yeah.
of their ideas
Yeah.
on there. And there's a little bit of that in this movie, but it's more so that people want to project their inner child onto them.
Yeah,
As opposed to like
it
who they
does, and like
are in current
well,
state.
and you know, there's a good mix of like people being sort of too distracted to realize that he's like not just a weird guy, like he's a child, you know, like when he meets John Lovitz is a good example. Like if Lovitz really wanted to think super hard about it, he'd be like, I need to tell someone that something's up with this guy. But he you know, he doesn't give a fuck and he's just like working his job. And then the way that he gets hired in the first place is like he's in the interview room. If he had just had a normal, like an interview without being interrupted by Elizabeth Perkins walking in, he's not getting that job. But she comes in and interrupts like at a crucial moment. And then afterward, the president's just like, all right, you know, when can you start? Like it's
let's get this over.
yeah,
with.
people are just distracted.
Becca, have you ever seen Being There? 70s
not.
movie? Huge recommend.
It's a massive, it's one of my favorite movies ever.
I cannot recommend it enough. It's from the 70s. It's Peter Sellers, directed by Hal Ashby. Yeah, a lot of parallels here with basically just kind of not a child, but like a simple-minded man that everyone lifts up into a higher status.
Yeah.
You know, and increasingly gains more power and recognition.
So the biggest comparison, because there's like a little subgenre of this type of movie, obviously.
13 going on 30.
Yeah, that is the most obvious comp, and then
17 again.
17 again, which is just really the most brutal like pairing of guys who look nothing alike.
You know this one, Becca? Zac Efron and
Of course.
what's the guy? What's the
I saw that in
Matthew
theaters.
Perry.
It's Matthew Perry.
Let's go.
Matthew Perry. Let's go, dude.
And it just that movie didn't particularly work for me.
Oh,
No,
really?
it's bad.
I know I'm dropping
just for you.
I'm dropping takes here.
It wasn't best of 2009
Yeah.
material for.
So for that reason, I
For
give
young
it
Drew.
4.5 stars out of 5. No, there are those movies, and then there are movies where like even like Freaky Friday, you know, where like you get the fun premise where like you're not going in necessarily for the premise, but you're going in for like, oh my god, Jamie Lee Curtis is like playing
His
a teenager.
kid, yeah.
By the way, that movie is an example of an adult going way over the top playing a teenager, to be honest. But that's also the way it's written. I'm not blaming Jamie Lee.
No, but those are, it is kind of slightly different. Even it is basically the same type of thing as Freaky Friday, but a horror movie. But it came out a couple years ago, the movie Freaky. If you guys ever saw it, the Vince Vaughn movie.
I haven't seen it.
Incredible. The best Vince Vaughn has acted since like Wedding Crashers.
Nice.
But it's the same type of thing. It's him playing a teenage girl.
I think the hardest.
awesome.
I think the hardest hit right now is on Shazam. Shazam has been found dead in a ditch.
Yeah, see, that's the thing is, and I remember it being sort of a point.
I gave it 4 stars when it came out.
No. So there were articles about this. This was something that,
but just because like you really like Zach Levi, like as a person,
shut up,
and his beliefs.
This
that's why
is
you give it 4
his
stars.
vaccine
like
opinions.
Zach Levi was very openly talking about how he, you know,
He looked at Big.
Yeah, he looked at Big for inspiration because how could you not? And you can see it all over his performance.
I am superhero. I am Big.
And I don't think he's doing a bad job, relatively speaking, in that movie, but it's just, you know, it's a world of difference watching fucking Hanks tackle this type of role. And also it's, you know, like we said with how Penny decided to direct it, it's a better pairing where like the kid in Shazam is not animated at all.
Oh,
and then Zachary
drag.
Levi is like, oh, I'm a kid. It's like, you're not that kid.
Zachary Levi's charm feels like very painted on
Yeah.
to me, as opposed to Tom Hanks's, which is like,
It's just
like when you think of a genuine person, like you're before Elvis, like in the pre-Elvis days, your brain would go to Tom Hanks like first.
He's white.
Exactly.
He's white.
So the biggest comparison of all, though, that I kept on thinking about while watching this movie is the movie Elf in a million different ways.
Yes, that's
because
right.
that is another
New York City.
Will Ferrell is effectively playing a child in an
Yeah.
adult's body in that movie.
Zoe Deschanel is basically Perkins.
he has a very strange romantic interest arc in that
like,
movie
you're
that
kind
like
of
where you're
judging her.
yeah, you're like,
throughout
what are you seeing right now, girl? Like, you can do better. But and then on top of that, he sort of gets everyone around him sort of in touch with like their inner child or with like the spirit of Christmas. It also, I don't know, tonally it's struck a really similar vibe to me. I think the main difference is obviously he is more outwardly clearly weird because he's wearing elf clothes. And B, that world, like the New York that they build in Elf, is a lot more cynical and surly and sort, you know what I mean? So there's like a sharper contrast when he comes in versus in Big, like some people are surly and stink. And like, obviously he's in that dingy apartment in New York and it's really nasty, but like, there are a lot of characters he encounters that are just waiting to be swept away by him.
Yeah.
Like the president of the company is just immediately taken,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
he doesn't run into the resistance.
He's also dressed like every cool young person, like now.
I know. Yeah. His fits are
go
out of
so
control.
hard. They go so
Outstanding.
There's
Tom Hanks?
yeah. He's,
Dude.
he's so gangster.
I need a shop. Where is the shop where I can get some of these shorts and some of these shirts? Because I need them. Like the patterns are out of control. They're so complicated.
That red jacket.
Oh, okay. Here's a nice touch. He's wearing a Giants shirt when he gets big. That's pretty cool. Like that tells me that they thought about every little detail. Like when they're walking through the carnival, every costume looks like they put thought into it.
Yeah.
The color, the fit, like it's just perfect.
A lot of it has, like, in terms of costuming, and the way it's shot, especially in the beginning when they're in the hometown, and then that main theme when they're in the hometown is so late 80s, early 90s.
The music.
Shout out to our boy Howard Shore.
It's full. It is complete sitcom. Like canon, all of that song is just straight out of like Three's Company. It's crazy.
Before we get out of the conversation about like inner child movies, I did want to talk about 13 Going on 30 real quick because I haven't seen that movie in forever. Have you seen that movie recently, Becca?
Not recently, no.
No, because does anyone remember if it's a similar scenario or if it's more of like a time travel situation where she fast forwards through her life and becomes her 30-year-old self. Does anyone remember this?
There's
confirm?
no way we could
it's
ever
like
find this out really quickly right now.
From what I remember, it was just like she like makes a wish and then just wakes up and she's 30.
Because this is all just to say, is Mark Ruffalo a pedophile? Like, that's really the question here.
The movie begins in 1987 and she wakes up in
Okay.
2004.
There we go. That's what I thought. Okay.
He's
Mark,
in the clear.
Mark Ruffalo is in
Mark
the clear,
Ruffalo.
boys.
Good, because
We're good.
because otherwise
Congratulations, Mark. You made
otherwise
it.
his performance in the post would really not be as effective. You know,
He is not in the post.
or then the fucking
Spotlight.
Literally, what's
Spotlight.
the difference? Shut the fuck
No,
up.
Spotlight is a good movie,
They
and the post
knew!
is nothing. Is the difference between those two?
There is a new Mark They Knew movie coming out this year.
Let's go.
And
It's
what did they
Ruffalo,
know? What did they know?
Wait,
I don't know what they didn't know.
Is it called What Did They Know? Because we already found out that they knew.
They knew something,
But
but
what
we
did
don't
they
know
know?
what they knew yet.
So anyway,
Jesus Christ.
I like that movie is very charming. I remember it being it's iconic to a whole different generation. And it's for the girlies, of course. It's all just swimming in the wake of Big.
Yeah.
Big slaps so
Big was
hard.
big.
Big did great. Big, like you said, he gets nominated for Best Actor in a
Yeah.
fucking comedy.
It also, this movie is, I think it was the 4th or 5th highest grossing movie of the year. Made $114 million on 18 mil budget.
And
Wow.
it fully A-listifies our boy.
Yeah, it's like instant.
After this,
Instant
it's like,
star status.
bam.
Yeah, he's in because
One thing I clocked is just the above the title billing. Like, that's, you don't see that too much these days. Like, how old was Hanks when this movie came out? What, maybe late 20s, early 30s?
30. He was
30 or 31, I think.
What actors right now does Adam Driver get above the title in Ferrari? Like, I don't think so.
Adam Driver is 65.
Like, I just seeing that, I was like, this is the movie star moment. This is what this movie is. And obviously, like,
He was 31 with this movie.
I think Tom probably shares split billing with Paul Newman and Dustin Hoffman. If they do, I don't remember if it's above the title, but they probably get like a split card. I don't think Tom gets above the title in Top Gun. I think it's a Tony Scott film, Top Gun, then Tom Cruise. Because now in Maverick, it's a Tom Cruise production, Tom Cruise,
Well,
Top Gun.
Rain Man, it's double above the billing.
It's a split.
It's a
It's a split card.
Tom Cruise actually in the same year in 88 does get above the title billing in Cocktail, a movie that I just watched for the first time.
Okay.
So like 88 is really both of them becoming
It's
Are y'all not doing Cocktail?
We didn't.
I
do
just
Cocktail.
watched Cocktail.
How?
You've seen it?
The first
Have you
time.
seen it?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
thoughts on Cocktail. Let's go.
Fascinating.
I haven't seen it. Sell me on it.
Fascinatingly bad.
That's a word for it. Yeah.
What's the case for Cocktail?
Oh, I'm not going to make the case for Cocktail. It's the first, I will say, the first like 30, 40 minutes of it kind of rule because it feels like it's going to be like just two
when he pours,
boys
he rains.
opening a bar, like just being bartenders together. There's a point where Tom Cruise gets up on top of a bar in like this Coliseum looking bar and he does poetry.
Wow.
There's some parts of it that
Okay.
rule.
Let's go.
And then they go to Jamaica and it quickly just plummets in quality. And Elizabeth Shue, God rest her soul for what happened to her character in that movie. It's abysmal.
But yeah, I think that this is the above the title billing gave me that little light bulb moment of like movie star. He's arrived. It's time.
Could y'all take a better picture of him for the poster?
I like the poster. You don't like the poster?
He looks like he's wincing.
He does look like he's in a little bit of pain.
It's painful to be old, to be big.
I want the other version of this where he's like, ow, my fucking back hurts every time that I take
didn't
3
stretch.
steps. He's like, man, my core strength is just gone. I don't
We
know what
also
happened
never
here.
see him buy new underwear. We only see him buy new clothes. So he might just be in child-size underwear the whole time.
Oh,
maybe that's why he's making that face.
That's why Elizabeth Perkins is so into it.
Yeah.
He's always just packing up.
That booty is popping.
She also, by the way, deserves so much credit because I really loved her in this movie. And it's a role that's tough because, you know, if you are to have issue with anything in this movie, it's like how things really like hone in on the two of them in the third act. There is a version of this movie that just, you know, it remains more of like a buddy comedy with him and Billy because that kid's really great. Right. But like she really delivers like in an effective way. I really, really loved her performance.
I can see why some people bump on it. I mean, I think there's very obvious things to grab onto and just kind of take this movie down.
Yeah, totally, of course. But
I'm sorry. Like
the movies.
I can't. Like, it was so entertaining. The vibes were just on point with this one. And I think Perkins is instrumental in making sure that the tone does not get derailed, because she is able to capture like the tenderness and the reality of the situation too, because she's not in a different movie. She's not operating in a different movie where it's just Tom Hanks, the adult. Like, it's still the reality of Tom Hanks, the child.
And she's the only character who has to fully flip on him, like opinion wise.
At the end.
Yeah, because it's either the boss who immediately loves him for some reason, or it's John Hurt who just fucking can't stand him and like beats him up. She goes like the full spectrum, and it all does
Forgot he beat him up.
Yeah, he beats him up with a racquetball court, which is, by the way, really
that's a weird scene. I don't know if I like that scene. The
and
music,
like, there's a whole crowd that watches.
Yeah. Also, that's the
in the
that
80s,
is the moment.
That's what people did.
Yeah, that
they
was
didn't have the internet.
No, also, like, I love how, like, that is the breaking moment where Susan's like, Paul, I don't want to be around you anymore. You beat up my friend on the racquetball court.
Yeah.
Here's all of your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She had it ready. Yeah. She was just looking for an excuse. It was already packed. Okay, so any final thoughts before we get to the categories? There's going to be plenty to talk about the categories, but Becca, any more kind of overall thoughts about the movie, about any of the plot, any of the performances, anything? We're going to get into the categories.
No, I mean, I think we've covered most of it. It's super, super charming, super fun. It's just like a great time from start to finish.
Highly agree.
Yeah, definitely.
Very entertaining movie.
It is. This is a movie that Blake Snyder brings up a lot in Save the Cat.
Oh,
which makes perfect sense considering that guy wrote Blank Check, which is just like a way worse version of this movie, like a literal wish fulfillment. You know what I mean? That said, that's my main takeaway from this movie is like, what a picture perfect way to write this type of script. Like, my God, they did it. And then, you know, it's crazy that there was such a long list of dudes and they all just sound so insanely wrong for the part, because I also really can't imagine this movie with any other person on earth. Like, I've said that once or twice. I think in Rain Man, I don't know who's playing Cruise's part, but in this movie, like, if this isn't Tom Hanks, I think that this movie might be just bad. Like, it really needs to be Tom Hanks.
It could be Awakenings. Which, by the way, you know, some of the other Penny Marshall movies.
We're going to talk about one of them.
The Preacher's Wife, Renaissance Man, Jumpin' Jack Flash, A League of Their Own, which we'll cover. And Riding in Cars with Boys, starring enemy of SAG-AFTRA picket line, Drew Barrymore.
No.
Oh, God.
If she would have waited just 2 days.
You know what sucks is that, like, we didn't announce it yet, but we were planning a whole Drew Barrymore, a blowout series. We were going to watch each episode of her talk show, and now we can't do it anymore.
It's canceled.
Yeah.
Is Penny still with us? Oh, no, she passed.
She died in 2018.
Mm.
Don't worry, though. She did get to guest star in one episode of Mulaney.
Oh, good.
Oh,
yeah.
Great.
Our favorite show.
Yeah.
Did they do crack cocaine on camera?
Not on camera.
Okay, good. Just making sure.
Off, absolutely.
Oh, 100%. Come on. Don't do
100%.
Penny like that.
You think she only does crack cocaine on camera? You think that
And
she's
with
like
John Mulaney?
I'll say it. doing coke with John Mulaney sounds like a fucking nightmare. That seems like he is the last person that I want to do coke with.
Yeah, because he already wouldn't shut up sober. You know what I mean?
Are you
Like,
kidding me? Like
yeah.
that's the most annoying person you
And I love the guy.
Yeah.
So like, given the opportunity, I would do coke with him, but I wouldn't enjoy
But it's
it.
like the whole like being like doing coke with PTA and Quentin, and it's just like, yeah, in theory that sounds fun until you're actually trapped in a room with them and you're like, these are the two
That's
most unbearable
the
people
Fiona
I've ever
Apple
seen.
story.
I would do it with PTA now because now he's so chilled out that coke might just sort of make him want to talk.
Right.
Tarantino, in no year of his
I would
life,
jump off a
in
cliff.
no situation would I ever.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even let.
What if
him-
Paul Walter Hauser is there?
Hey, you know Paul Walter Hauser's like super Christian.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, his social feeds are just like all like Christian
Oh,
stuff. It's
Okay.
like,
I guess.
good for you.
All right. Categories. So here are the categories. Becca, since you didn't do a Robin movie, here's a refresher on some of the categories. These are we're changing them up. Tom Swap, favorite scene, most iconic moment, and then we got a triple of hair, brow. Oh wait,
Hair.
this is
we're
this
not
is for
brow
Cruz.
teeth,
We're not
but
doing
we
this
for
can't do
Cruz.
that for.
We're not. No,
You can't judge his hair because his hair does fluctuate a bit, and in this, it's a 5 out of 5.
We got to come up with
the
some
perfect hair.
kind of equivalent of the triple physical objectification of Cruz.
Yeah, we have to objectify.
I don't know.
our boys.
With Hanks, it's really just like there are two eras. There's pre and post his face being like sort of like distractingly off-putting.
right.
If I'm honest, you know what I mean. Like it, like by the
it
time,
works for something like this because he's boyish.
Well, no, it's just like he's also, you know, he's young and he aged a lot more naturally than a lot of movie stars do. So it's like jarring to see him with other people who like do surgery and shit to look a certain way. So like by the time you get to You've Got Mail, there's certain takes where you're like laughing and it's just because like his face is like naturally a certain way that you don't typically see in movies.
I think that with Cruz it's more the looks. I think with Hanks we can zero in more on his vibe, his charm.
Mm.
That might be the charm.
Is he
meter.
yeah. Like is he passive? Like would you smash?
Right.
Let's have
Just
a would
yay-
you
yay or nay, would you smash
and
Tom
for
Hanks?
this one,
smash or pass Tom
there
Hanks?
is a officer of the law outside the door waiting for you to answer that question.
So Drew, you want to start that or
Smash.
Okay.
Let-
Right now he's
fucking
busy.
Take me in, boys.
Right
I
now
don't
he's
give a
busy
shit.
because he's trying to figure out if we need to take down our Rain Man episode or not from the internet. All right. First category is Tom Swap. Could the
No,
other Tom
Zero.
do
no.
this role?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely.
That would be
fucking not.
so funny to see, and it would be the worst movie ever made.
I would enjoy it. It would be a bad movie. I think I would have a good time.
So how do we think Tom Cruise would play this? Because he would go way over the top.
Oh, it would be insane.
Well, it doesn't make sense because he has to have a singular mission in his roles in order to be like a good actor. And like this character doesn't. This character is like sort of trying to figure out what to do. What he wants changes over the course of the movie. Tom Cruise, what he wants cannot change.
no, this is how you do it.
He's a point A to point B.
instead of
kind
a height issue, it's like let's say the kid is like trying to be like some kind of adrenaline junkie, some kind of sports car
exactly.
driver or
Yeah,
something.
he's like,
They're like, you're a child, you can't get on the
Yeah.
raceway.
He's like, I want to luge.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Actually,
So that's a film right there. Hold up.
exterior.
Computer.
Exterior.
That's
the
how you would
Olympics.
do it with Cruz. If it's like if the kid's already like a hot shot, you know, sports athletic adrenaline guy, and he just needs that next step to be able to get
Yeah.
into the
Yeah, baby-
whatever the
baby
thing
I
is.
feel
Tom
like the
Cruise
kid
isn't
would maybe
taking
need to be a little bit older too for that. Maybe like late
He's like a
teens, early
16.
teens.
Yeah.
Yeah, more of a Zac Efron type.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
then you would almost need to age up Cruise at that point because 80s Cruise like
He's
looks-
too young.
he's so
Yeah.
youthful.
Right. How old
I mean,
was
I know Josh like numerically is 12 in this movie, but young Josh is giving off like a lot younger vibes than I think Tom
Yeah.
Cruise could channel.
Honestly,
That's
like
that's a good point.
there's a lot of this movie where I'm like, is he 13 or is he like 9? Because it is like kind of it. Maybe like 13-year-olds were just built different in the 80s than they were in the 2000s. Whenever you're growing up, but like it's.
I mean, I was
a little
that
too boyish.
I was that size when I was 13.
Well, that's
you know what I mean.
Size,
like I was I think 5 foot flat when I was 13. So that tracks. But yeah, generally, I think I would bet you anything there were multiple conversations in production of like how old to make this kid, because his job does have to become like playing with toys, and it's like, do 13-year-olds just really go like?
I wonder if they cast this kid when Robert De Niro had the role, because I think you can track him pretty well to Hanks. Because I think that's part of it too. It's not just the age, but it's like how believable is the jump.
They got
from
a little
that
kid
face.
that's like squinting, like that'd be so funny.
They probably would have just been a kid from Awakenings.
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh my god.
Or they already had him on standby.
They get a kid that looks just like Gary Busey.
That poor child.
Like the kid from Awakenings had the job from Big, and they're like, "Well, we can't cast you anymore, but I promise, like, I'll get back to you."
Well, don't worry, we have another big awards play movie that'll definitely be right up your alley.
Was that right after this?
It was 90s? The immediate follow up. Yeah, it was in the 90s. It was 1990.
So the answer is no to your question.
Okay.
By the way,
next category: favorite scene. Okay, so we could break this up into like moment versus scene. I think iconic moment. That's like, if we want to skip to iconic moment, to me, that's the piano. That's the FAO Schwartz.
If you're talking about the one big takeaway from that is the thing that has become like burned, and like you see a montage of like the power of movies, and you get the FAO Schwartz piano scene.
Speaking of, that's all. Penny directed the fuck out of that.
It's so good. It keeps going and going.
Did you guys see the trivia thing that apparently they had body doubles on standby to actually do the thing? Because they like didn't know if Tom Hanks and Robert Loggia were going to be able to do it. And they were just like, oh, all right. Like, you don't think we can do it then? And so they just went out there and like they practice it like off camera, like really trying to practice it.
There's some pretty long shots in that sequence where you just stay on them doing it.
And it's, oh my God, it works so well. And it's a transformative scene too, because it does mean something for this kid's like standing, with his boss. And like you're watching this old man like evolve and turn into a child again. It's just
Macmillan rules. That's the dream boss that we all want to have.
I mean, I'll have to think if I split this into two separate moments, but this is favorite and iconic for me. Like this lived up to the hype, is this piano scene. What about you, Becca?
I'm going to have to go with the Beluga Caviar.
That whole run is unbelievable.
I love the tuxedo.
I accidentally hit pause in the middle of that scene too and got the most like perfect square shot of him like tongue out, just like nailing it. That I think also
he's really getting in.
He's doing such a bad job of getting it out of his mouth.
But I've done this thing with the napkin before too, so it was very relatable.
He's so funny. The little like the wheezing is so good. Tom is hilarious.
But
that's another thing about Hanks, that Cruise is unintentionally very funny a lot, and it plays into like roles very comedic.
No, Hanks is a comedic actor.
Like
he's a comedian.
Hanks is fucking really funny.
One of my favorite jokes too is like early on during that scene with the mom where like she starts screaming and he thinks it's because he didn't wipe his feet on the mat.
Yep.
That was played so well.
That's good, man. That's great, right?
That scene is so nuts, dude. That poor woman.
Becca, I will give a shout out to that scene because that is up there for one of my favorite scenes of the entire movie, because it starts with him showing up with the tux to the thing, the Beluga Caviar, of him just like his whole reaction to that. And then they get into the limo and like
he will not stop touching everything.
Trying to like open up to him about like her life and being vulnerable, and he just keeps touching buttons and like sticking his head out the window. And then he goes back to the apartment and he's just like, "You want to have a sleepover? Okay, but I get to be on top." Like,
that's so good. That's
and then straight into the trampoline in the apartment, and it's just,
the trampoline is
that
so
whole
good.
Run,
so
like that, like 6 minutes is one of the best stretches of the entire movie.
By the way,
so good.
this speaks to another old category that I want to dust off, which is fellas WYD.
Okay.
And we should, and in this case,
Are we Susan?
in this case, it's ladies WYD.
Yeah.
You,
what would you do?
Maybe you've been blind to what this, to this dude's true nature and how genuinely weird he is up to this point. You get to his apartment, you walk in, and it looks like that. WYD.
You really live
To
like
me,
this?
that room was like immediately giving the backlot from Big Fat Liar. So at that point, I don't think it matters. We can do it on the bunk bed. I don't care.
Wow.
But the scratchy Thundercats blanket has got to go.
Yep. Okay.
There's a lot of questionable stuff in there. I think you can carve out a corner where it's not, the vibes are not bad.
I think that it's a combination trampoline in the living room and
Bunk
guy
bed,
that has
tiny bunk bed.
The bunk bed's like third on the list because also I
But
think
there has to be another room.
the soda machine in the living room thing is like the most like
That's sick.
frat bro-y, like it's like a fucking like that is a 13-year-old boy's thought of like, man, when I become adult, I'm gonna have a Pepsi machine in my living room.
And you don't
Like,
need coins for it.
that combination of things right there would probably have me like
Well, at least
looking
it's a
in the
Pepsi
mirror.
machine and not like a Mick Ultra machine.
Oh, okay, so there's
I don't think
I'd be
that-
turning around at that point.
It's like a Marlboro machine.
He's smoking a pack a day by the last week.
She simply is just not asking any questions about him. Like she doesn't give a fuck anything about his past, where he's
Right.
been from. There's no way if she were to ask one question, he would answer it well.
Well, Rayman had been out at this point, so she knew that the autistic savant was a possibility.
No, this movie it came out like right. In
Oh,
the
it's
same
the same
year.
year.
Yeah, it's the
That's
same year.
right. So she didn't go to the Berlin Film Festival
What's
to see the early
I
screening.
think so.
What's the better autistic performance? Is it Big or Rain Man?
So
Definitely Big.
is the implication that all 13-year-old boys are autistic?
No, but
as an adult man, there's a lot of overlap.
Yes. So
I would say Big is less offensive. The route that you're going to go with it.
I think that's the point that I'm trying to get to.
So
They're both epic.
Was he up against Hoffman?
Yeah.
Then?
Yeah.
Wow.
We read
lead,
it off.
yeah.
We read off the category last week.
It was
but
like
is,
Max von Sydow or something.
It's an insane category of like who's of like the old heads in the news. 88 was just an unfucking real year for the movies.
Was this the only?
movies.
Oh, this was nominated for another Oscar.
It was screenplay, wasn't it?
I think it was.
Yes, it was.
Man, this is
Also lost to Rain Man.
This is an A+ like by the books
Yeah.
screenplay. Like
Gary Ross and Anne Spielberg.
Gary Ross, such a weird bunch of scripts this guy's written. It's
Hunger Games, Pleasantville.
Mm-hmm.
He directed Hunger Games, didn't he?
Seabiscuit.
Yo.
Not Seabiscuit.
Yo.
Pleasantville's good. That's a good movie.
Dave, fucking Mr. Baseball.
Man, I'm just looking
Ocean's
at the
8
movies
is
that came out in
bad.
1988. Can I just recap? So, Who Framed Roger Rabbit was the highest grossing movie of the year. Not accounting for Rain Man, which technically made more, but made money in 1989. Coming to America. Good Morning Vietnam.
Wow.
Our boy Robin at third.
Play.
Big at fourth. 3 Minute Baby. I'm skipping around here a little bit.
Wait.
Baby.
So is that all the top though? All those?
that top four.
Those are so
Number 5, Crocodile Dundee 2.
4 very comedic movies.
Yeah.
That's
Life
so.
was different
you're doing calendar.
Yeah,
if
I
you
did
do
count.
in year, it's Rain Man. At the top.
Rain Man is technically number 1, and then those 4 follow through. Here are other movies that came out in 1988: 3 Minute Baby, Die Hard, Moonstruck, Beetlejuice,
Cocktail.
Scrooged, Bill Durham, Twins.
Bill Durham.
Bill Durham.
That's just a guy.
Wow, we were having so much fun. What happened?
Midnight Run, Broadcast News, Oliver and Company, Land Before Time.
Land Before Time. I was about to say.
Child's Play, Ernest Saves Christmas, Fatal Attraction.
Wow.
1988 hit.
Mhm.
Unbelievable year.
The
Married to the
80s
Mob.
The 80s were interesting, man. I've seen a lot of 80s movies recently that I wasn't a huge fan of. I think the drugs really took a toll on a lot of these creatives. I think they were smoking some weird shit, but they did hit really well sometimes.
Sometimes.
There was some really good stuff in there, and I think this is one of them.
88 is, I will say, 88 is a good year. There's some years in the 80s, especially in the early 80s, that are rough. Especially like awards play kind of movies that are, whenever you get into the Chariots of Fire,
Right.
Out of Africa
Tough.
eras, those are not
Okay.
great.
One more category. Recaging and re-Robin Couch. Where is Nicolas Cage and Robin Williams in this movie?
So I think I have the answer for both of these. I want Robin playing Jack playing Billy. So
No,
he looks
that's
old.
Awful. It's the worst.
So this guy happens to have a friend who has
Who is Jack?
who has progeria.
He's like, guys,
And it's
don't
Jack.
worry.
That's okay.
I know how to adapt to these
it's
situations.
a bit of a hat on a hat.
It gets really sad
It's
really
a little
quick.
it's a little distracting.
It's so fucked.
No,
I'm
but
gonna throw out Robin Williams as Zoltar.
Oh,
that's a great
Okay.
If you want to go like a whole different route with Zoltar and have him have like interactions with the kid where
Yeah.
he's like, "Be careful what you wish
He's
for."
like a
I
whole
feel like
guy.
that would be
yeah, he's like
perfect.
doing impressions.
like in like AI, like he is a animated figure, like you know in the
Yeah,
movie AI.
Yeah.
Doctor.
especially
What's
in
he-
like the wake
Dr.
of the
No?
genie too. Like that's absolutely a possibility.
That's a great call. So there is that scene where they go to the carnival and they walk right past him without noticing him. Do you guys clock that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's a Robin scene right there, just waiting to happen, where he just like starts turning to the camera and doing bits.
He's like, "Hey, look at me!" Ho ho.
What about Nick Cage's Paul?
That's
that was my thought.
that's
too,
a that's a gimme.
I've never misspelled
But
anything,
Paul
not
just has, like, a
once.
fucking freak out.
Yeah, I've got one guy that both of them could be.
Nick Cage in the racquetball court would just be unbelievable.
Oh,
Give me the ball.
It'd be so good.
yeah.
Give me the ball. Give me the ball.
He-
Get
yeah.
back.
Him as Paul is just like right there. Like it's so
easy.
there. They could both be the ride operator who doesn't let the kid on the
With
ride.
the Anthony Fantano
wearing the
flannel.
crazy flannel and the bandana.
He really likes
They-
that album.
It would be so easy for both of them to do that.
Depending on the age too, Robin could be Robert.
Robin
Ooh,
could be-
Macmillan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see where you're
Depending
going.
on like maybe like an older Robin.
Yeah.
Honestly, I
The
why not?
really
musical
like that.
boss.
Yeah, if we got like 2000s Robin, like
It could be cool.
I think
He's
it'd be a lot of
reprising
fun.
his character from Toys. He has inherited the company.
No.
I want to.
He's really turned things around
Listen,
for
I-
FAO shorts.
But he's
They're
not-
no longer a defense
Yeah.
contract.
I'm
But he's
mad about.
lost his way though.
I'm mad about how much I think about Toys because that movie makes me mad because I want a do over. I want us to try.
I don't
again.
think about toys at all.
I know. I don't understand why I think about it.
It's Becca and Hunter in the Mad Men elevator.
But it like old dogs haunts me like a wart that I can't get rid of.
Jeez.
Old Dogs really changed me.
I like came out
Never
of
the
Old
same.
Dogs like 7 years older.
Weirdly, that movie Old Dogs does make me think that Travolta could have pulled it off in Big.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't have been bad. It wouldn't have been bad.
He can be. I
I feel like there would have been a lot more moments that they're like, ugh, like if John Travolta played that part.
That's
That's
true.
Have you seen Saturday Night Fever?
No.
So that is like probably the only young. I know there's a lot of big Grease heads out there. I haven't seen Grease in forever. It's probably
Grease rules.
fine, but
It still hits.
Grease
but
rules.
Saturday Night Fever is like the young Travolta. That's like this dude was a fucking supermodel. He was hot. He could get it. There was a time.
See, but again, I think that's the beauty of Tom Hanks in this movie is that he's not hot. He's just kind of a cutie pie. And
Yeah.
I think it would be distracting if he was like really hot. Like I
Yeah,
see
you're
Robert De Niro and I'm like, oof.
Oh, let me jump on it.
I see Gary Busey
So-
and I'm like, he's too sexy for my screen.
Going back to the Millie Bobby Brown comparison for our girl, what does the 21st century recast of this movie look like? Because I mean, obviously, like we've said, they've done it a few times. They tried Zac Efron,
Well,
Jennifer Gardner.
Do you want to hear the bad version of it? Because I think that we're going to get a type of this movie later this year, and it's Timothée Chalamet in this role.
No, but he's too young. Like, you need Timothy. Like, he couldn't be either the old guy or the young guy, and Millie Bobby Brown couldn't be.
No, Millie Bobby Brown just
You
looks
need to age
exactly
her.
like Elizabeth
Yeah.
Perkins, but she is not.
You need to age her up a lot.
I could maybe see Chris Pine pulling it off.
Ooh, that's not bad.
Maybe
That's
it would
not
have
bad.
to be a very specific like type of thing. But I'm basing this like solely off him in Dungeons and Dragons. Like he was very fun.
Yes,
in that.
Pine is
that's a good
excellent in
one.
that movie.
I'm googling actors.
I like or I was gonna say there actually is a movie called Little that came out in 2019. Never saw this movie, but I remember seeing the trailers for it.
Is it the opposite of Big?
Yes, I think it is. I think it is a child that transforms, or sorry, an adult that transforms into a child. Is that Issa Rae? Yeah, I think that is. Yeah, Issa Rae, Regina Hall.
Yeah, well, who's the kid?
Someone named Marseille Martin.
Well, yeah, see that matters a lot more in that
Right.
movie. The gimme here in a new Big, who just proved that they can be
Zachary Levi.
shut up. Who just proved that they can be broadly very, very funny? Ryan Gosling. Ooh, folks.
Yes,
Ooh,
Ken. Let's go.
He just did it.
Yeah.
He just did the damn thing.
I mean, if you wanted to deviate from this tone, like one of my favorite movies right now, the number one movie in my Letterboxd top 4 right now is Terminator 2. Arnold as the Terminator is a little bit of a Big situation. Like Terminator 2 is kind of like Big a little bit, where like the Terminator needs to like learn how to be a functioning human, and he doesn't have a very
Everybody's
good brain.
always drawing that comparison between Terminator 2
So
and Big.
if you wanted to lean into that energy as like the stoic hero action guy, then you could have someone like Adam Driver jump in. I don't know if Adam Driver could do the comedic side of it. You would need something a little more serious. Big as an action movie.
It's tough. I did a Google of actors in their 30s, and it's tough.
It's a little bleak.
Well, the problem is that comic actors are kind of a dying breed in themselves. And like, there's a lot of people on here, like I could just put Josh Hutcherson in there, but like,
What's that
like
doing for people?
Exactly. Like if I'm just going for a boyish look for a person in their 30s, like there has to be more to it than just that.
Yeah, Chris Hemsworth is broadly comedic, but too hot.
I like Chris Pine, but Chris Pine is almost too hot. If we're still trying to not
I feel
get
like
there.
Realistically, if this movie was getting pitched, it would be getting pitched with Chris Pratt.
Fucking
I
kill me.
hate that.
As tragic as that is to say.
Okay. What about
But only
this?
if he does an Italian accent, then I'm back in.
In the Elizabeth Perkins role, you put Kristen Stewart, and we get Bobby Patty, the Batty Daddy.
No,
I
no,
don't.
And it's very broody.
What are you talking about? No, that doesn't make any
just
sense.
watch
What about
Twilight?
What about Daniel
Well, I'm
Radcliffe?
always saying that vampires are very they're very childlike.
They're literally like
very true.
hundreds of years old.
They're the exact
They're
opposite
so
of
old.
youthful.
I will say about Pratt, because now it's not feasible because we have so much baggage with him as a guy, and also we've seen him try and fail at so many different types of roles. Him coming fresh off Parks and Rec, if he were still a bit like shaggy looking,
Yeah.
I think would do an awesome job. Like because he genuinely was objectively very funny in that role.
Mhm.
Like he is capable of being like that. It's just we know too much now. We know far too much about that man.
Oh,
And we aren't the only ones. Blue does too. Blue knows too much.
I have an idea.
Because Blue, you know me.
Okay. Joe Keery and Ben Schwartz.
We don't know. I'm over trying to put Joe Keery and shit. He's in like a shitty little fucking
Ben
DJ
Schwartz,
thing.
maybe. That could be
Ben
fun.
Schwartz is fun.
Benny.
I'm not overplaying Ben Schwartz and stuff.
This list of actors in their 30s is so
Now the real person.
This is so sad. There's like no one.
So you're right about Chris Pratt. The other person that they would make this that would star in this movie, unfortunately, is Ryan Reynolds. You gotta admit,
God.
they would.
He kind of already did it with Detective Pikachu.
Yeah,
and Free Guy.
I mean,
always
yeah.
talking about Free Guy.
That's who you would. Comedic actor, is he like the only fucking one right now? Like things are bleak right
That
now.
sucks.
God
God,
damn
that
it.
sucks so hard.
So that's tough. In terms of someone who might be able to do it, Charlie Day.
Yeah.
Charlie Day would be great. I can buy that.
Yeah, funny,
I mean,
childish.
I think the key thing here is that you can't replicate this magic of
Mhm.
Hanks. And I think that's
Yeah.
hopefully what we're going to see a lot with the Hank series is that
That's the thing.
he's
is,
doing something special.
yeah, he has something really sort of like inexplicable about like what he's bringing to the part. It's not, I don't know, it's not standard. I think it's one of those things where like coming from a different background helps you because the way he's approaching roles is just different.
Yeah.
Like, he just has like a sort of a purity to him.
I'm really glad he got the Oscar nom for this. Again, to me, that crying in the shitty apartment scene,
It's
that
so
to
good.
me was as much as I love the FAO Schwartz piano sequence. I think that's, aside from that, my favorite moment in the movie.
Yeah.
I love that.
I did want to give one other shout out to it's like right at the midway point of the movie, but it's right after the piano scene, the montage that takes place whenever he's moving into the nice apartment. He's like skateboarding around the apartment, and it's like to the backdrop of him like writing a letter to his parents and everything. Just an incredible montage.
Hey, I've been
unbelievable
kidnapped.
montage.
Don't worry about me,
It's
though.
kind of like camp.
They're torturing me. I'll be fine. Be home soon.
Absolutely wild.
That to me is the weirdest part about this movie. Out of
Is
all
the
the
parent
things,
side
Yeah,
of
his
things?
mom is
Yeah.
at home like hanging a noose.
yeah. Out of
Well,
all
like
the weird-
on Long Island, like she's just like
Is she even going to
30
the
minutes
police
away.
saying like I got a call from him or I got a letter from him?
Well,
Or
there's
is she literally
the
just
milk carton. There's the missing child.
But he is definitely like not smart enough. Like he just mailed that letter to his parents like from his mailing address. So like
Yeah.
the police would just show up at his house and be like, "Hey, it's you." Like,
unless his mom is just simply not looking for him, which surely has to be the case.
All right, last final shout outs. I wanted to shout out the first scene we see Tom Hanks. He's shirtless.
Hey, looking good.
He's looking good.
Yeah. So new category, Smash, definitively.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we're gonna get hot Hanks a lot, but
We're not covering the pass era though. You know what I mean? In terms of Smash or Pass Hanks.
okay. Yeah, no, we are. Yeah, I guess we're gonna do like Sleepless and You've Got Mail.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, we'll see some. Yeah,
his hair is unbelievable in this movie. It's
it's
perfect.
kind of like
it is absolute
it's doing
perfection.
so many things.
It's so beautiful. I love it.
It's some lush locks. All right, final thoughts, Becca. Anything else you want to say about Big or Tom Hanks?
Additional scene to shout out the scene where he comes back to the hotel room with Billy after his first paycheck, and they just had like the perfect kids' day out, and they're spraying each other with silly string. That was also like just a very charming,
Yeah,
fun scene.
very aw shucks.
Yeah. I love that scene. Yeah, is that the scene or they're just like sitting there watching The French Connection with just like their feet kicked up?
Yeah.
Just
As
like-
you do.
Yeah, I love that.
Just
That's great.
boys. Just dudes being guys. Any other thoughts? You're done? That's it?
I think I'm done.
I gotta pee.
All
I
right.
have a lot of resentment towards Billy because I didn't get that starring role that would have made me a star. I could have been the next Billy.
With your
You-
big number.
What happened
Your
to the
act
actor
two
who
You,
played
opener.
you should have told them that your name was Hunter Moblowski.
Yeah.
They've been like, you're the perfect poll that we've been looking for.
Really capture the
No,
energy.
shout out to Dante from Young Actors. I'm not bitter.
Okay. Well, thank you all for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe, like, and comment, and let us know your thoughts on Big. Check out weboughtamic.net and patreon.com/weboughtamic to get extras, exclusives, WBAM Plus Max. Join the Discord. Thank you, beautiful patrons, for supporting the show, making the hard work possible. Next week, stick around for more Cruise. Back to Cruise. We're going to be flip-flopping a little bit here. It's going to be like every other week a different Tom for the next few, with Oliver Stone's Born on the 4th of July. Really excited for that one. Really excited to talk Stone, talk Vietnam, and Cruise's biggest shot at an Academy Award so far. Bekah, thank you so much. Please let the people know what you got going on.
You can always check out what I'm doing on Instagram and Twitter. I'm Heyo, it's Bekah there. I'm Bekah Stogner on Letterboxd and YouTube. Not super active on YouTube at the moment, but you can always backtrack through my old Robin Williams stuff while I think of something else to maybe do there. And you can listen to my podcast, The Time Mousechine, talking about all kinds of fun Disney Channel stuff. We're in our strike era right now, so it's getting a little weird on there.
Yeah,
covering like Hannah Montana books and unaired pilots and shit.
That's
but it's
cool.
been fun. So.
I was about to say, like, what's the Disney content looking like now that Iger is in full villain mode, you know?
It's been grim for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we would have like loved to talk about Halloween Town this year, but I think we're just going to talk about like Disney Channel star feuds all through the month of October instead.
Nice.
So we're just trying a different path. It's been interesting and fun for the time being.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. We hope to have you on again soon. And we'll keep it. No one wanted to cover The Creator with me, so we'll keep it going with our series.
Fine, Ernest. I'll watch this stupid movie, but we don't have to do a podcast.
There's nothing else. There's nothing else on this horizon. This was the one little drop of water.
You didn't want to do a Nun 2 podcast with me.
Socks? You don't want to talk socks? Saw X?
Socks Patrol?
Socks Patrol? Yeah.
Can we do a quick like recap pod of the Dolphins Broncos game from Sunday where the Dolphins scored 70 points?
Oof.
Did you?
Brutal.
You heard that right.
Oof.
First time since like the 1950s.
I'm really happy for you, Drew. I'm just happy that you have something in your life.
Stick around for Jigsaw really getting into these football players' brains. And we'll see you next
somehow
time.
that's still less traumatic than the actual game of football, so.
Thanks again, Bekah. Bye, everybody.
Bye.